Today's topic is degrees versus radians. So if we think of degrees, a full rotation of a circle is 360 degrees. So if I start right here on this green line and I go all the way around following along this blue line and I end up back at the green line, that's 360 degrees or a full rotation. Okay? Radians is the new term that you probably might not know. So what is a radian? So a radian is a pure measure based on the radius of the circle and another unit of measurement. So the only thing that you really need to know from here is you need to know that a radian is a unit of measure, and it is based on the radius of the circle. Okay, so if we're thinking about this length of a circle, so this length on the outside, we should think of the circumference. And the circumference of a circle is 2 pi times the radius. And let's just say that the radius of this circle is 1. So what is the circumference of the circle? So that's 2 pi times 1. So my circumference is 2 pi. So you need to know that a radian is a unit of measure based on the radius of the circle, and that the distance around a circle in radians is the circumference, and that's 2 pi. So if we're looking at degrees versus radians, we know that a full rotation all the way around is 360 degrees, and the circumference, or the distance around the circle, is 2 pi. So we can say that the degrees, 360, is the same as 2 pi. So these things are equal to each other. So today what we're going to do is we're going to convert from degrees into radians, and then we're going to give from radians to degrees. Okay? Or the definition of a degrees is a measure of 1 degree is equivalent to a rotation of 1 out of 360 of a full rotation. So basically, you just need to know what I just wrote is that 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi. And since this is an equation, we can simplify this by dividing both sides by 2. So that means 180 degrees is pi. So basically what that's saying is instead of going all the way around, if I just go halfway, so this is halfway, that's 180 degrees. Or if I only go halfway on here, that's going to be just pi. So our conversion factor we're going to use is 180 is equal to pi. Okay? So our conversion is pi is in radians, 180 degrees, or you could write it the other way around. It doesn't really matter. So the way we solve these is we are going to make a proportion. So 120 degrees is equivalent to some amount of radians. So that's going to be equal to x. Well, I know that 180 degrees is equal to pi radians, okay? Make sure when you're setting up your proportion that 120 degrees, 180 degrees. So it's degrees divided by degrees, radians divided by radians. So if I cross multiply 120 times pi is 120 pi, 180 times x is 180x. My next step is to divide both sides by 180 to get x by itself. So I'm going to simplify 120 divided by 180. So I'm just going to simply go to my calculator. And that's 2/3. So 120 divided by 80 is 2/3, and then I still have this pi on top. So it's just going to be 2/3 pi, or 2 pi divided by 3 equals x. So 120 degrees is equivalent to 2 pi over 3, or 2/3 pi. Okay? We're going to do the same thing for negative 45. Just because it's a negative degrees doesn't mean it's going to be any different. So we're trying to figure out how many radians that is. So that's equal to x. This is negative 45 degrees. So that's where the 180 degrees goes. Remember, degrees divided by degrees. And x is pi. Okay? Because these are both radians. So just like the last one, I'm going to cross multiply. Negative 45 times pi equals 180x. To get x by itself, divide both sides by 180. And then I'm going to do negative 45 divided by 180. And that should be negative 1/4. So negative 1/4 equals x. Don't forget your pi like I almost did. So negative 1 times pi can just be negative pi over 4. You don't need the 1 on the numerator. Okay? So now we should notice that this isn't radians. You should know that it's in radians because most of the time it's not going to have a little degree sign, or it's going to have a pi in it. It might not always have a pi, but normally it does. So 5 pi over 6 is equal to x degrees. So make sure you set up your equation correctly. Since this 5 pi over 6 is in radians, that means it's going to be divided by pi over 180 degrees. Okay? When you cross multiply, 5 pi divided by 6 times 180. So this is 5 pi divided by 6 times 180 equals pi times x. Okay? Now we're going to get x by itself, so divide both sides by pi. Divide both sides by pi. And this time, we're going to just type in the number. So we have 5 divided by 6 times 180, and we're dividing that and taking that and dividing that all by pi. Oh, we have a 5 pi over 6 here too. Oops. Sorry, I had something extra there. 150. So x is equal to 150 degrees. Don't forget the degree sign. So this was the first answer, this was the second answer, and this is my third answer. Okay? So you might be asking yourself, why did I put pi into the calculator for number 3 and not for number 1 and number 2, because number 1 and number 2, you're going from degrees to radians, so you want your answer to have pi in it, versus degrees, there's no pi in your answer, so that's why. Okay, so last but not least, we have negative 3 pi over 2 is equal to x. Negative 3 pi over 2 is in radians, so that's where the pi goes. And then we have 180 degrees on the other side, because this is degrees, and then these are radians on the left. Okay, we're going to cross multiply, so that's negative 3 pi over 2 times 180, so negative 3 pi over 2 times 180 equals pi times x. Divide both sides by pi. And we're going to type that into my calculator, and let's see what we get. Negative 3 pi divided by 2 times 180 divided by pi, negative 270. Oops. So my last answer for number 4 is negative 270 degrees. Okay? Now you can go ahead and start on the practice.